was born in 1988, so I'm an 80s baby in Durban, but I quickly moved to Johannesburg with the rest of my family. And I grew up here in Joburg. And I went to King David Linksfield all the way through. So junior school, primary school, high school. And then I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I didn't know what I wanted to study. So I took a gap year. I went on, it's a program with the youth movement, and it was like a leadership gap year. I didn't want to do something that was not planned, something that was, that would make me lazy, So after school, I went into it was an 11-month program, and it was eye-opening. It was a year in Israel, and we went through different types of activities throughout the year. So we spent some time on a kibbutz, and we spent some time giving back and volunteering, and we did some intrapersonal skill development and all sorts of different activities throughout the year. And then I came back, and I decided I wanted to study, but I didn't know what I wanted to do really. So I kind of just went into a general BSc so that I could explore different options. So in my first year, I actually studied through UNISA. So they had the longest. They were still open for me to choose different courses by the time I really decided what I wanted to do. So I thought, okay, I'll work at the same time, studied through UNISA, and it was great, and I loved it. And eventually I decided that I really enjoyed physiology and microbiology. So those were my two majors. And I actually worked at the same time for an optometrist. They called it visual therapy. So I was assisting kids that had eye tracking problems. So it was so it was like an afternoon job for me, some pocket money, that type of thing. And so it was, when I look back at it now, it was the love of helping people, so that was, a couple of years down the line, we can look back and we can see that. So after I finished studying, I got a job I was an intern at a private testing laboratory here in Joburg. And it was an eye-opener, coming from a little bubble that I live in to seeing the big world, the big wide world out there. And it was great. I really enjoyed it, and I learned a lot. And I was quite fortunate enough to move up the ladder quite quickly. So within a year, I was a technical signatory, so I was responsible for signing off results, and wasn't used to such a heavy responsibility so quick, so early on in my career. And then eventually I moved up into a team leader and assistant manager, and then later on as a manager. So that all happened within a couple of years. So I was quite fortunate, and I've got a lot of respect from the opportunities from my bosses that I was given. From there I moved over to MiChem Dynamics, and then joined on to VGL Dimensions at the same time. That brings me to today. I am a laboratory consultant, but we're a team of whatever needs to be done, we're happy to do it. So we don't only, our function isn't limited to only consulting or only to laboratories. So I assist the team primarily with consulting with clients, a lot of internal audits, and I'm now starting on with a bit of training as well. So those are, I would say, my primaries, but then we also have quite a few other back-end programs which I'm involved in. So things like our e-learning platform, things like our LCDMP. So I speak a bit to the developers We develop the software, improve the software, manage the software that we run, that runs all our training courses online as well. So there's a little bit of IT there at the same time. And yeah, I just kind of, I don't know how, but I managed to get myself involved in a whole bunch of other little things along the way as well. I think I like to help. So if somebody needs help, or if I can alleviate some pressure, then I'm happy to join in, even if it's a bit beyond me. I think what gives me the most satisfaction, as opposed to what I love, um, I think it's when I'm auditing, and um, so sometimes when I'm auditing, it's like a fine line, because it's I need to be nitpicky, I need to um, I need to criticize your system, but sometimes also, the people that I'm auditing, they've put a lot of hard work and effort into the system. So it's always tricky, telling someone, no, you're non-compliant, but saying it in a nice way. So so I think what I enjoy the most specifically about auditing is that I've got the opportunity to explain the concept to someone. And when I can see someone is grasping the concept that I'm trying to give over, and they can see where their own procedures are maybe missing the point a little bit, then yeah, you can kind of see it in their face how the whole picture comes together. And I think for me, that's like the true element of satisfaction, when people really understand what I'm trying to say and how they can improve their system without me bringing it down, without turning it into a negative, because normally the auditing space is quite a negative. Oh, the auditor's coming, I hope they don't see this, I hope they don't find this, or yeah, so it's usually quite a negative thing. So I try to make light of it in a way, kind of just to give them a positive spin in it. And then if I can give some teaching along the way, give them some guidance, give them some assistance throughout the way in what's kind of expected, and I can see that they're grasping it. They're keen to learn, keen to open their eyes. Then for me, that's the satisfaction that I'm looking for. I think the job that we hold is really quite critical. Yeah, I think a lot of people will underestimate what we really do, and its true importance. So I think the love comes from being able to make a difference. I think as an organization, we pride ourselves in being quite strict, not because we want to be ridiculous, not because we want to be unreasonable, but specifically because we know the impact of all the different laboratories, the results they release, the potential effects that they might have on industry or the consumer. So as we serve lots of different industries, so although I'm a microbiologist, we serve many other industries. So and it's critical. We've been doing quite a bit of work in the physical and mechanical space as well, and it's critical that laboratories release results that are accurate and reliable. So if we can do our parts to try and make them a little bit better, then the results they release will be a little bit more accurate and a little bit more reliable. So that's kind of like our goal, and I think I love that. I love the idea of we playing our role, I'm playing my role. It's the benefit is ultimately the end user, the consumer. I think from my experience, what I've seen in the industry is that normally a laboratory it's not a money-making organization, especially if it's an in-house testing laboratory. So it's normally like a business unit that's frowned upon, because all they do is spend money, and the results of the laboratory can affect whether the organization needs to spend more money or if they can release stock to market. So the potential for bribery to occur, you know, it's it's significant. And I would say it's significant more in this industry than potentially others, specifically because we're testing one sample. That sample might be a representation of 1 million, 5 million rands worth of stock. So, so if it's failing on whatever test, then it has the potential to cost the company a lot of money. There's a lot riding on the accuracy, because the potential for people to do naughty things is definitely there and definitely present. If I think back to growing up, I always have this image of my dad helping people. Whether it's, finding them a chair, or, just getting up for them, or so I've got this image embedded in my mind of it's it's one thing to say something, but it's another thing to act on it. So I think from a very young age, that was instilled in me, that it's important to help before you were asked to do something. So I think one of the core values that I have within me is kind of just to be aware. Um, yeah, kind of just be aware of my surroundings, and be aware if there is somebody who needs assistance, and to try and kind of be there before they need to ask. So, and that could be I mean, that's kind of applicable to any situation in our day-to-day lives, and whether that's letting the car in front of you come into traffic, or something simple that is more of a gesture. It's more of a gesture than a task to be completed. So yeah, so I think that would, to me, be one of the most important values. And as I've gotten a bit older and a bit grayer, it's kind of been more obvious to me to see how important it is and how important that value really is. And also, I would say how often um, people don't think about it as well. So yeah, so I think that's probably the most important value to me, is just to be present, just to be aware, just to be able to help others. Okay, so the first time I heard about Santi and Vinay, Santi was actually one of my SANAS assessors through one of our surveillance audits at the laboratory I was working at. And I actually remember she was in the laboratory, and I think she was doing a vertical. She was looking at a report and going backwards. So she was looking at all the information that made up that report that was created, which was, a couple months back. And um, one of my colleagues, he pulled me out of the laboratory, and he said, "There's a parked down prawn jumping at the assessor's feet." So we were like, we can't let her see the parked down prawn. And I don't think I've ever told her, but I don't know if she remembers us crawling on the floor trying to catch a parked down prawn. Um, so that was the first time we met. And then later on, we asked Vinay to do some just general training for us. So we developed a little bit of a relationship. I think just from there. And then, MiChem Dynamics kind of blew up, and they were quite a force in the industry. I mean, so the company is quite young, only created in 2014. So it's quite young, and I started working the same year. So yeah, so when we started to hear some amazing things about this organization, and they had some big clients on board as well. So it was definitely a path that I wanted to consider. And the lab can get quite monotonous. So I thought this might be a nice option, a nice career move, a nice option to learn a different side of the laboratory world, as well as different types of industries. And to be able to work with a team like Santi and Vinay, because that's what they were in those days. They weren't this organization of 20 something people as we are today. Initially the thought was this is a career consideration, and then I think it turned into more of a, I'd really like to be a part of the change that they are making in the industry. So then when it came to 2019, it was time to move over to where the grass was greener, and I took the plunge. In fact, I had an interview with Vinay. I think it was in 2018. Vinay actually interviewed me, but he mentioned to me that there was going to be a lot of travel, and I wasn't so keen with young kids at the time, so I thought travel's not really the best thing, and I was too scared to tell my wife about the travel part. But in 2019, the time for me was right. So I think it was towards the end of the year 2019. I joined the MiChem team, and a large part of that motivation was, it started off as I mentioned, a career move, but then seeing what they stood for and seeing what they were about, being part of the organization, it kind of just sunk in more how important it was to be a part of this organization. Okay, so I think the first thing that comes to mind is that there's it's a big honor for me to be part of the organizations, just because they've got strong ethical values, and when you're in a place that values you more than the work that you do, then it has quite a profound effect on your thought process, the reason why you do things, the desire to want to do more, to help the organization grow. So it has a big effect on a person, on an employee. So I think that's the one thing. And then the second part is that it's also quite a responsibility to carry the MiChem shoulders, the VGL name on your shoulders as you go out into the industry. There's always this force that comes along with you, that says, we need to do this because of the values that we're coming from. We need to ensure that our training is top-notch and our consulting is top-notch, and the system that we implement and consult, it needs to be as good as it can be, so that there can be change in the industry. It can force that effect that we're aiming for. I've got an uncle who lives in Nausna, and he's a clever guy. So he once told me, when I went out into the world to job search, to job hunt, so he once told me that there is a yes somewhere. So whether you're applying for all these jobs, whether you're looking to make a change, whether you're looking to try something new, there is going to be a yes. But there are going to be a lot of no's along the way. But you must know that you need to collect your no's before you can get your yes. So the more you apply, the more no's you will get, which means your yes is only going to come sooner. So I thought that was quite profound. He told me that years ago. In fact, I'm not even sure he remembers that he told me that. But it was quite a profound statement that he mentioned to me, and I would I would suggest the same to those who are pushing and looking and not getting the yes, is just to keep collecting those no's. And you can't get despondent by the number of no's, because if you need to collect 100 no's so that you can get a yes or 101, then you got to get those no's. And I think it's you can't let it, as hard as it is, you can't let it chase you out of your passion, can't let it chase you out of the industry. And we do see it all the time. Yeah. So in fact, for VGL Laboratory, when we were interviewing for students, there were students that hadn't been placed in order to complete their qualifications. They were waiting for an opportunity to do their in-service training, and it had been 2 or 3 years that they were waiting so that they could do a year of in-service training, and then they could, qualify. So it is dire. It's quite dire out in the industry. But I would say just try and keep strong. Don't let it chase you away from the industry. You chose the industry because you love it. So yeah, just collect your nose. So I'm just thinking about my own experiences. I used to manage a team of quite a few people, and I was still learning. I think I was still learning a lot because I was quite young in age and still quite fresh in my career. And it was quite a responsibility to manage a whole bunch of people from lots of different backgrounds, completely different to me. I grew up in a little bubble. So it was a challenge, trying to understand from everyone's perspective. And I think the one thing that I found to be effective was just support. So was I available to listen to people? Was I available to, help people where I could, or guide them through a process? Or was I available to offer my time so that I could teach? And I think in some cases I got it right, and in some cases I got it wrong. But I think I did learn from that experience. And I think the message I would give out to other leaders is just to kind of look for what support your team or your individuals in your team need, because everybody needs different type of support. And I would say try and identify what it is and try and see how you can best support that person. Even with some of the people that I used to work with, I'm still in touch with a lot of them today. And I'm a reference also on people's CV quite a lot. So I often get phone calls, discussing phone calls from recruitment agencies, or, for a reference. And it's quite humbling to know that firstly somebody chose me as their reference on their CV. It's genuinely makes me happy when I can see them succeed. So I think that's also a very important factor, is that, just if I was a part of their life for a couple of years, I helped support them then, there's no reason why that support should stop. So, if somebody comes to me with advice now, then I'm always happy to share it, because we had that relationship back then. Yeah, I think those relationships strengthen when you work hard together. You spend more time with your work colleagues than you do with your own family. So I think it's important to support. If I was going to send a message out, I would say we live in quite a selfish world, and intuitively I think we all want to do good, and we all want to help, and we all want to do better. So I think if I could leave a message, then it would be, don't be scared to help someone else. It may not be something financial. It may be, as I mentioned before, support. Maybe they just need a conversation, or maybe they just need some guidance, and that is something that doesn't cost any money. It is something that can have a profound effect on another. And so I think if I was going to leave a message, then just be aware that people sometimes need help, and we should be available to help them.